everyone, and welcome to one of our final classes. It's 2 a.m. here, almost 2 a.m. So I hope you are having as much fun as I am, wherever and whenever you are. So today we've got one more item to add to your game, and that's going to be a little bouncy box. Think of the spring in Super Mario World, something similar to that. And the first thing we need to do is we want this little yellow square, but right now it's got things attached and we don't want that. So we're going to click on our platforms in our project art. I'm going to click Sprite Renderer, and now I'm going to click on this, and I know that this is a 32 by 32 square. So I'm going to go to my width and type 32, and my height and type 32. And it's okay, but it's not quite right, so I'm going to move it, see if it'll move correctly. It did not. All right, so we'll change this back to 32 and 32. And now it's perfect, it looks like. So just go ahead and position it so it's capturing just this square here with 1 pixel of black around it. Click Apply, go out of here. I'm going to drag this in. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some components to it. And what I want it to do, I want it to be able to touch the player and push the player around. So I need a box collider 2D. I'm going to click on Edit. I put this in just a little bit, just right inside the black area, so it really feels like he's jumping down on it. All right, there we go. And then I want it to make a boing sound whenever we touch it, so I'm going to add an audio source. And for the clip, I'm going to choose our player jump boing, and I'm going to choose plan await to not be true. Now, I don't want it to sound the exact same as a jump, but we can change the pitch to 0.6 or so, and it's going to make a really big sounding boing instead of the player's boing, boing, boing. Okay. With that done, and that done, the next thing, we want to make 2 quick animations. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Hierarchy, click on the platform 13, which is what this is, and I'm going to type Bouncy Box. I recommend renaming something before you create an animation clip for it, because the animator name in our files is going to be named based on what the name here was. You can rename it if you want, but just in general it makes things easier. By the way, if you see any files that you don't have, I'll explain that in the next class. Okay, so we're going to go to Create. I'm going to click on Assets, Animation, and I'm going to name it Bouncy Box Bounce. And now we want to make this kind of a little cartoony looking bounce. So the way we can do that is we can click over here. On the first frame, let's just change the scale around, and then change it back just to create a keyframe. So around frame, say 20. I'm going to make this wider. We're going to make it 1.2, and I'm going to make this 0.5. So if I hit play, you can kind of see what's happening, right? It looks like it's squishing, kind of a cartoony squish. So I'm going to click on frame 0 to make sure this white line is here. I'm going to click on the top diamond to make sure everything is highlighted in blue. Hit Control C to copy. Go over to frame 40, hit Control V. So we want to create that perfect loop, right? So now if I click play, boing, boing, boing. Cool. So I can click out of record, that's good. Now I want to click this drop down box here, and it's going to say create new clip. I'm going to do that. This clip, make sure we're in the animation. I'm going to call it Bouncy Box Idle. I'm adding 1. This is the second time I shot this video, so these are files I forgot to delete, but you only need it 1 time. All right, and this we can actually leave by itself because we don't want it to move when it's idle, so we don't have to do anything with that. Now I'm going to go to our animator, and we have Bouncy Box Bounce and Bouncy Box Idle. So I'm going to rename this just to make it easier in code. I'm going to name it Bounce only. And I'm going to, on our Bouncy Box Idle, I'm going to right click to set as default layer. So we want it to start as idle. We want it to start not moving. And then you'll see in a minute, we're going to make one transition, make a transition from bouncy box idle, sure, from bounce to bouncy box idle. We don't need to transition back because we're gonna have the code set it to go to this, and after it finishes playing, it's gonna go back here. Also, we don't need our bounce to play again and again and again. So I'm going to go to our animation asset. I'm going to click on Bouncy Box Bounce 1, or for you, Bouncy Box Bounce, and I'm going to check the loop time so it doesn't loop. So it'll play once and then return to here. Okay, with that all set up, I'm going to go to Scripts and I'm going to right-click, Create C# script, and I'm going to name it Bouncy Box Script. We're going to go ahead and open it in our Visual Studio. And of course, it's being difficult. There we go. All right, so we need one variable for this. We need remember we're using private variables now when we can. We're going to use serialized field because we want to set it in the Unity Inspector. We're going to call it vector3, of course, bounce power, or bounce height, whatever you'd like. And we're going to use a code similar to our jump, so I can delete the void start method and the void update method, actually. We're going to say void on collision, because we have a collider, enter 2D. And as always, I'm going to change this to other. We're going to say if other.gameObject.compare tag player with a capital P. So if we touch the player, we need to do several things. We need to play our audio source, this dot get component audio source dot play. Next, we want to play our animation, this dot get component animator dot play parentheses, and remember we renamed that to bounce. Aha, we're smart, we thought ahead. And then finally, we're going to do other dot game object dot get component rigid body 2D dot add force parentheses, and we're going to say bounce height, comma force mode 2D dot impulse. And remember, this is almost exactly the same code as our jump script. If we go over there, you can see it's almost the same. The only difference is we had to reference the player from here, so it's slightly longer. We had to add this other.get object. I'm going to hit Control and S to save, and then we're going to go back into our Unity Inspector, or sorry, Unity window. I'm going to click on this here. I'm going to drag this a little bit over here, and we want to go to our bouncy box. We want to add one more component, and that's our bouncy box script. And you can set this height to whatever you want. You can also change each individual box to different heights, but do have a rhyme or reason for your boxes. In video games, it's usually frowned upon to have something that suddenly does something completely different. Then you get into Kaizo Mario type things. But in general, in games, especially platformers, we like to teach our players to recognize patterns and eventually know what to expect. It makes them feel skilled and it makes the game more fun. So this is about the same as our jump. We could put it more depending on how far you want to bounce, but I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And let's try this. Boing, 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 boing. Cool. Very good. And okay, so now you have your bouncy box. You can also change the X value. If you wanted to push left or right, you could change the X value. So if we put 15, 15, it's going to launch me up and to the right. I'll show you that real quick. Boing, like that. You have a catapult now. And of course, you could change this to anything you wanted. And last, we're going to drag our bouncy box into our prefabs. With that complete, I'll see you in the next one.